Kim.com was spied on illegally by the GCSB. The High Court determined that. The Prime Minister agreed the High Court were right and apologised to Kim.com. As a result of all of that, we know a whole lot more stuff about what the GCSB gets up to than anyone ever thought we would know. And that came to a head in a way today when Kim.com appeared before the Select Committee looking at extending the GCSB's powers. Now remember, the Prime Minister is the Minister in charge of the GCSB, so he was the head of the Select Committee. Kim.com was here to give evidence in a way to argue against the extension of the GCSB's powers. He is here with us tonight, live in our Wellington newsroom. Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, John.
What was the point you wanted to make today? Why did you come to Wellington to talk to the Select Committee, and what was it you wanted to say?
Well, I wanted to talk about the intrusions into privacy and the dangers for New Zealanders losing their basic human right to privacy.
What sort of spying is going on, do you believe, already?
Yes, well, we know from the leaks from Edward Snowden that the US government is basically committing mass surveillance on the world population. Everything that traverses through their networks is being captured. Every email, every phone call, every chat message, every SMS of every New Zealander and everybody else. And we also know that other Five Eye partners are doing the same thing. So the leaks have also revealed that the UK is doing the same thing, and it's highly likely that the GCSB is also involved in this kind of mass surveillance. Recently, when the Prime Minister was asked in Parliament if the GCSB is basically splicing into the submarine cable and copying everything that is passing through there, he wouldn't answer that question. He would say it's not in the national interest to talk about it. And for me, that answer indicates very clearly that that's what's going on.
Russell Norman, I thought, asked a good question in the Select Committee today, and he asked you, if you're not doing anything wrong, why does this matter? Why does it matter?
Well, here's the thing. You cannot preemptively turn every person into a suspect and go and snoop in their personal lives. And you know, you might think you have done nothing wrong and you have nothing to fear. But if someone really has something against you politically, they don't like you, they will look through 5 years of your emails and they will find something. They will find something that they can use against you. So why should anyone agree to this kind of mass surveillance?
You suggested today that the Prime Minister knew about you prior to the raid. Now, what we've always been told is that the raid was on the 20th of January. The Prime Minister was told the raid was going to take place on the 19th of January, and he had never heard about you before then. Do you believe he had heard about you before then?
Well, absolutely. He knew about me before the raid. We're going to talk about that at our extradition hearing. Now is not the time.
What do you make of the fact that the GCSB was illegally spying on you? You haven't really had the opportunity to talk about this in public. What we believe and what the affidavit suggests is that they were asked on about December 12th to start looking at you. They started formally doing that on December 14th. It was illegal. It continued till as late as January 30th. What is your reaction to that?
Well, you have to understand how the GCSB spied on me. They put in selector data in the system that we all know now as PRISM. They typed in my email address and my phone number, and they basically got everything that was surveilled about me in the past years by that massive spy cloud. So when they say they started at a certain point to surveil me and type in that selected data, that doesn't mean that that is all they have. They have 5 years of my communications going back. So it's a much greater intrusion than they have admitted.
We started learning about this through you and what we learned about through the evidence that you guys have given to the High Court and the illegal spying, and then came the Kitteridge report, and then all sorts of statements from the Prime Minister and opposition politicians. But we're also hearing from Edward Snowden about another part of this gigantic network, the NSA PRISM that you were just talking about. Have you been in correspondence with Edward Snowden? Are you talking to him? Are your lawyers talking to his lawyers? Are there any kind of discussion? That's a wry smile. Are there any kind of discussions taking place?
I don't know Edward Snowden personally, and that's all I want to say about this.
Is the world at a turning point here? And can privacy be reinvented? Or has the horse now so thoroughly bolted that all traditional notions of privacy are dead and buried?
Well, if that would be the case, then that would be a very sad moment for mankind, you know, because there are basic human rights that every person should fight for, you know, and we shouldn't allow these kinds of dilutions of our rights. You know, Jimmy Carter said the other day in an interview that the United States is now in breach of 1/3 of the United Nations Human Rights Charter. That is a very scary trend, and New Zealand shouldn't imitate this kind of stuff.
You talked about that today. You talked about New Zealand's record as campaigning for, well, for being nuclear free back in the 80s. You sounded on occasions like a politician, and I know people have been asking you, are you interested in politics? I think you're teasing people a little bit. Let's clarify this. Yes or no, are you going to run for Parliament next election?
No, I'm not going to be a politician, but I'm going to try and do my best to influence politics in a way that allow for better legislation, that allow for more privacy, that allow for internet businesses to flourish in New Zealand, and that you know, basically give New Zealand an opportunity to grow as a nation with the internet economy, because it is going to be the most important economy on the planet, and New Zealand is way back on the list, and we need to change that. So I will try and help to do that.
So we're way back on the list in terms of the economic uses, but you are suggesting that we are very much at the front of the list in terms of our association with the world's leading spies.
Yes. Definitely. I mean, the GCSB is part of Five Eyes. It's 5 countries that came together and said, we are spying on the world. We are getting all your data and we are snooping through all your stuff. And if you ever become a person of interest to us, we will know everything about you. And that is really scary. And in fact, it's illegal. They are doing something illegal. And you know, the biggest irony here is that they call me a pirate. And they are going and stealing all the personal information of people around the world on a massive scale, storing it forever without your permission. They are the pirates. I'm not a pirate. You know, you have to look at it. It's insane what they are doing.
Kim.com, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.